So this right here is the smallest gaming PC that I've ever built. It's in a case called the Skyreach 4 Tiny, which at just 3 liters in total volume, yeah, this thing is incredibly small. It's around a quarter of the size of my own PC in the NCase M1, and it doesn't support things like water cooling or discrete GPUs, but it does allow for a freakishly small gaming PC with the right hardware. But just what kind of gaming experience can we actually expect even when dropping in AMD's latest generation APUs like the Ryzen 5600G? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out today. Now, of course, we have to start off with the size comparison because this thing really is brutally small. Here it is next to its bigger brother, the Skyreach 4 Mini, as well as the Xbox Series X and Series S. 3.3 liters means that you can throw this thing in your average size backpack and still have plenty of room for extra stuff as well. If you're someone who travels a lot, for example, between homes or likes to bring your PC into work and you don't have a gaming laptop for whatever reason, this could be a suitable option. Build quality has always been an exceeding spec when it comes to Skyreach cases, thick aluminium panels here with perfect tolerances and with a beautiful surface finish as well. There are no stress marks around the bends of the panel at all, and this thing is built like a tank. It's seriously strong, but at the same time nice, lightweight and portable. Surprisingly, the Xbox Series S is actually a little bit smaller than the S4T, but realistically at this size both are incredibly small, backpackable little systems. Now the T in S4T doesn't just stand for tiny, but also transform. Believe it or not, you will actually be able to stack 2 S4Ts together to create a case that's slightly larger than the Skyreach 4 Mini, allowing for mildly bigger graphics cards and extra breathing room. So there is the potential there for a kind of flexible system which can kind of shapeshift depending on the hardware that you're putting on it. For example, if one month you want to run a discrete GPU, but then maybe you change your mind, you can do that with this case. I will say though, most people will probably do like a slim APU build like I've got here. The kind of transformation aspect of the S4T does sound like a bit of work, but it is cool that you can have multiple different sizes of builds within the same case. Granted, for that to work, you do actually have to buy separate panels as well, so it's not really the same case, more like a case that is expandable if you want to spend more money on it. Also, at the time of filming, the transform model is still undergoing some refinement, but I do want to stress that that is one of the main intentions of this case, the fact that you can expand it depending on the hardware that you're using. As for building in the S4T, it's pretty simple, and the most important thing that you need to decide is what power supply setup you're going with. You can do an external power supply build with the HDPlex 400 watt DC to ATX along with a 330 watt power brick from Dell, or you can go with a completely internal power setup like this, which is preferred. So here we're using the HDPlex 400 watt AC to DC at the front of the case, as well as a 200 watt DC to ATX, which conveniently plugs into the motherboard's 24 pin. This gives us about 200 watts of usable power, which is plenty for an APU build, but not enough if you're planning on expanding the case and using the transform kit with something like an RTX 3060 or 3060 Ti. There you'd want to use the 400 watt DC to ATX instead of the 200 watt one that we're using here, and I'll link some information on how to do that down below. So here's what I decided to put together. It's an AMD build using the latest generation APU, the Ryzen 5600G. We've got that plugged into the Asus B550i Strix with 16GB of 3600 MHz low profile memory and some M.2 NVMe storage. Then for the cooler, we're using the Alpenfoam Blackridge, which is the most powerful option that'll fit in this case. So let's talk about the 5600G. It has 6 cores and 12 threads running on the latest Zen 3 architecture and 7 compute units for the integrated GPU, although that's still based on Vega graphics. Another really important thing to mention, this is not just a Ryzen 5600X with a powerful iGPU. The CPU portion of the 5600G is lower clocked and with less cache. Therefore, the 5600X will actually be slightly faster when it comes to CPU performance. Now, the GPU on the 5600G clocks in at 1900 MHz, but we can actually get a pretty nice overclock here of around 2300 to 2400 MHz, depending on the quality of your specific part. My retail sample here landed me at 2350 MHz at 1.35 volts, giving us around a 24% increase in clock speed. So the big moment then, what what kind of gaming performance can you expect? Well, to be honest, it's not actually that great. In Valorant, performance ranged anywhere between 70 and 100 FPS in a game of deathmatch at 1080p, which is okay if you're playing at lower ranks, but definitely a compromising experience. CSGO had a bit more of a confident performance though, averaging over 100 FPS consistently in a game of deathmatch at 1080p low. Then Apex at low settings saw around 40 to 50 FPS on average, but then much smoother performance closer to 60 FPS once the resolution was dropped down to 900p. Some areas feel really nice at about 80 FPS, but then there's a ton of effects and the frame rate crunches down into the 50s. Then we have Doom Eternal, which is a game that can run pretty much on anything, but even here the 5600G is struggling to run the game on the lowest graphic settings at 1080p. Even dropping down to 900p, we still get constant dips into the 40 and 50 FPS range during busy gunfights. So as you can see, the Vega graphics cores on the 5600G are very dated, and I know there will be plenty of comments saying that I'm missing the point here and that this product isn't designed for 60 FPS plus gaming performance, but I disagree. AMD are advertising this series as having a smooth 1080p gaming performance right out of the box and offering a high frame rate and immersive experience. Surely in 2021, gamers will expect a decent bit of gaming performance with these parts. And here's the thing, we should expect a confident gaming experience with this product. In a time where the upcoming Steam Deck, a portable gaming device with a much more updated GPU architecture, will actually offer more gaming performance than what we can get here, it's hard not to be disappointed. Just imagine for a second if AMD had created these APUs with RDNA 2 graphics. I mean, the kind of performance that you could get from a 65-watt APU then would actually be insane. You could probably drive 240Hz gaming then from a single chip and have a build like this, which would be super cool. Another example is the Xbox Series S. It uses a single AMD processor which has 8 Zen 2 CPU cores and 20 compute units on the latest RDNA 2 graphics, and all with a physical die size less than that of the Ryzen 5600G. So something like that does seem feasible within the size of an AM4 socketable part. It just doesn't exist yet. Now of course it makes a lot more sense for AMD to focus on making chips for a product like that as opposed to those of us looking for a high performance DIY build with an APU, but at a time where discrete graphics cards are really hard to get at an affordable price, I think a lot of us can agree that a Series S-like processor in an AM4 package would be the perfect fit for a lot of users right now. And it's not like this tiny PC can't handle more power. Even when overclocked, the 5600G was running at very comfortable temperatures inside the Skyreach 4T, despite using a very low profile cooler. So even if AMD wanted to release a 95-watt processor, for example, based on a powerful APU, that would be pretty much perfect for this little case right here. So I think that kind of outlines my experience here with the Skyreach 4T and the Ryzen 5600G. I mean, when it comes to the S4T, this thing is super cool. I would so badly just want to cram a ton of APU performance in this that can kind of rival the performance that we can get from those new consoles. But yeah, the hardware just doesn't exist yet. In fact, it's not even close. The Ryzen 5600G and 5700G still running on Vega graphics. I mean, it's almost a crime compared to the RDNA 2 graphics performance that you can get in those new consoles and even new laptops and the upcoming Steam Deck. Now, I will say if you are considering the Ryzen 5600G as a budget APU option, it's okay there at $260 US, but again, just don't expect any confident 1080p gaming in really anything other than CSGO, Minecraft, and those other really easy to run titles. Even then, as a budget gaming machine, it's hard to recommend over the Xbox Series S, which will be way more powerful and cheaper once you consider an entire 5600G build. On the other hand, if you are looking for something super compact and powerful, I'd recommend instead the Skyreach 4 Mini, which at least has support for current gen GPUs, and for a build that will be barely 2 liters larger in volume, it will wildly outpace anything that you can build today in this smaller model. Seriously, if you haven't seen my 3060 Ti build yet in the Skyreach 4 Mini, definitely check that out because that thing is seriously fast for how small it is. Roughly, you'd be at least getting 5 times the gaming performance compared to AMD's most powerful APU, the 5700G. That's the difference between running a game at 30 FPS or 150 FPS plus. So I personally would have loved to see a little bit more gaming performance out of the 5600G and just the APU lineup in general. I think still running on Vega graphics is a little bit silly, especially when RDNA 2 is out there, and it has been for quite a while. And then as for the Skyreach 4 Tiny, I think this is an awesome little case, but again, it comes back to the hardware not really making sense to spend this much money on a tiny APU case. But if you are interested in it, I will leave some links down below, as well as that 3060 Ti S4 mini build, which you guys should definitely check out. As always, a huge thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.